If someone had asked me a few years ago who I trusted most in this world, I would have given two names without hesitation: my wife, Emily, and my best friend, Daniel. I never imagined they would end up in the same sentence for the wrong reasons. Daniel and I had known each other since we were kids. We grew up on the same street, played basketball after school, shared video games, secrets, and stupid dreams about what we'd do when we were older. By the time we hit college, he was like a brother to me. He stood by me through everything: breakups, my father's passing, even helping me move into my first apartment. When I met Emily, he was one of the first people I introduced her to. And he was standing right beside me as my best man on our wedding day. Emily loved that I had a friend like Daniel. She always said, "It's rare for men to have such a strong friendship. You two are lucky." At first, I agreed. The three of us hung out all the time: movie nights, barbecues, weekend trips. Daniel was practically family. I didn't just let him into my home, I let him into my life. For the first few years of my marriage, everything felt normal. Emily and I were happy. Sure, like any couple, we argued sometimes. About bills, schedules, whose turn it was to take out the trash. But nothing major. And Daniel was always around, cracking jokes, lightening the mood. It never crossed my mind to question his closeness with Emily. But looking back now, the signs were there. It started small, moments that seemed meaningless at the time. Emily would light up when Daniel texted her. She'd laugh at his jokes a little louder than mine. Sometimes, when we all hung out, I'd notice them exchanging glances. I brushed it off. Why wouldn't I? This was my wife and my best friend. Two people I trusted more than anyone. Then the small things started to grow. Emily would mention Daniel in conversations more often. If something funny happened at work, she'd say, "I can't wait to tell Daniel." When she needed advice, she'd call him instead of me. At first, I told myself it was good. At least she had someone else she could lean on. But then, I realized she was leaning on him more than me. One night, after dinner, she got a text. I watched her face light up. She quickly set the phone down, almost like she didn't want me to see. I laughed it off and asked, "Who's that?" She hesitated for a second too long before saying, "Just Daniel." It was nothing. Or at least, that's what I told myself. But something about the way she smiled at her phone that night stuck with me. I remember lying in bed next to her, listening to her soft breathing as she fell asleep, while I stared at the ceiling. For the first time in my marriage, I felt a knot in my stomach. A quiet whisper in the back of my mind. What if something's wrong? I tried to shake it. Tried to convince myself I was paranoid. This was Emily. This was Daniel. They'd never, would they? Still, that whisper didn't go away. And it was only the beginning. At first, the changes in Emily's behavior were small enough that I almost convinced myself I was imagining them. She laughed more at her phone, kept it close even when walking into the kitchen, and always angled the screen away if I happened to pass by. When I asked who she was talking to, she casually said, "Just some coworkers." Her tone was too light, rehearsed almost, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. One Friday night, she went out. With colleagues! I stayed home, flipping through my phone, until I saw a group photo someone had posted online. Emily was in the picture, smiling wide, glass of wine in her hand. Standing right beside her, arm brushing hers, was Daniel. He didn't work with her. He had no reason to be there. When she came home later, she told me all about the fun dinner with coworkers. Every detail, every laugh, except for Daniel. She didn't mention him once. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind spun with questions I didn't want to ask. Why lie about him? Why hide him? Over the following weeks, the signs piled up. Emily began guarding her phone like it was made of gold. New passwords appeared. Notifications silenced. Even in the shower, she carried it into the bathroom. One night, as she slept, I caught a glimpse of the lock screen lighting up. A message preview. "Can't wait to see you again," from Daniel. My stomach dropped. It wasn't proof, not completely, but it was the first undeniable crack. The next morning, I asked casually if she'd talked to him recently. She froze for a fraction of a second, long enough for me to see the light forming, then said, "He just needed some advice." After that, her excuses became thinner. Shopping with her sister, who later told me they hadn't seen each other in weeks, late work nights that didn't match her office schedule. And one evening she came home with a faint trace of cologne on her clothes, not mine. Each lie weighed heavier than the last. Part of me wanted to confront her, demand the truth, but another part wasn't ready for the answer. I decided then, if she wouldn't tell me, I'd have to find out myself. That Saturday, when Emily announced she was going shopping with her sister again, my chest tightened. I'd already caught her lying about that once. This time, I couldn't just sit and wait. I waited a few minutes, then got in my car and followed her from a distance. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles went white. She didn't head toward the mall or anywhere near her sister's place. Instead, she drove across town, straight into a quiet neighborhood I knew by heart. Daniel's neighborhood. My pulse hammered in my ears as I slowed down and parked a few houses away. Emily pulled into his driveway like she'd done it 100 times. Seconds later, Daniel stepped outside to greet her. I'll never forget what I saw. He leaned in, kissed her cheek, and she smiled in a way I hadn't seen in months. It wasn't passionate, but it was enough to shatter the little hope I'd been clinging to. She went inside, and I sat frozen in my car. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. Nearly an hour. My mind tortured me with images of what might be happening behind those closed doors. Every second felt like another nail hammered into my chest. When she finally walked back out, she looked relaxed, almost glowing. She said something to Daniel, laughed, and lightly touched his arm before heading to her car. That tiny gesture, her hand on his arm, hit me harder than anything else. It was natural, familiar. The kind of touch you don't fake. I followed her home at a safe distance, every thought in my head a storm. By the time we pulled into the driveway, I could barely breathe. She came inside, hugged me casually, asked about my day as if nothing had happened. I nodded, pretended everything was fine, but lying in bed beside her that night, I couldn't unsee it. I wasn't suspicious anymore. I wasn't guessing. Now I knew. After what I saw at Daniel's house, every moment with Emily felt like a test. Every word she spoke, every smile she gave me, I questioned it all. And yet, I still hadn't confronted her. Part of me wanted undeniable proof, something that left no room for excuses. Another part feared what that proof would mean for us, for me, for the life we'd built. The next few days were torture. Emily acted as if nothing was wrong, cooking dinner, asking about my work, laughing at silly shows on TV. But now I saw the cracks. Her phone never left her side, not even when she went to shower. She started dressing differently, paying more attention to her appearance before going to the store. Her excuses came faster, rehearsed, like she already knew what questions I might ask. I tried subtle things, offering to drive her, suggesting we visit her sister together. Every time, she had an answer ready. One evening, I mentioned Daniel casually, watching her closely. She froze for a fraction of a second before forcing a smile and saying, "Oh, I haven't seen him in weeks." That lie hit me like a punch. I had literally seen her walk into his house days earlier. I started keeping a notebook. Dates, times, excuses. I felt like a detective in my own marriage, gathering evidence against the person I loved most. And the more I wrote down, the clearer the pattern became. One night, around midnight, I couldn't take it anymore. While Emily slept, I quietly reached for her phone. My hands trembled as I entered a guess at her new passcode. Wrong. Second try, wrong again. I almost gave up. Then it unlocked. Her messages were there. Dozens of them. Not explicit, but intimate enough to strip away any doubt. Phrases like, "I miss you already," and "Can't wait until the next time." And then the one that crushed me. "Sometimes I think he suspects. We have to be more careful." I put the phone down, my chest so tight, I thought I might break. I looked at her sleeping beside me, the woman I trusted with my whole heart, and for the first time, I felt like a stranger was lying there. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, I knew two things. The marriage I thought I had was gone, and soon, I'd have to decide what to do with the truth I couldn't ignore. The next few days felt like I was living in someone else's life. I carried the weight of what I'd seen and read, but on the surface, nothing changed. I still kissed Emily goodbye in the morning, still ate dinner with her at night, still listened to her laugh. But every sound, every smile, felt like it belonged to a stranger. I knew I couldn't keep pretending forever. The evidence was all there, her lies, her visits to Daniel, the late-night messages. But the hardest part wasn't the betrayal. It was deciding what to do about it. Part of me wanted to scream, to demand answers, to throw the truth in her face. Another part wanted to rewind time, to erase everything I had seen, and go back to the days when ignorance was bliss. One evening, I sat across from her at the dinner table, watching her talk about her day. Her eyes sparkled as she spoke, but I couldn't help wondering, was that sparkle for me, or was it still lingering from him? I opened my mouth to confront her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I nodded, chewed my food, and let the silence grow heavier between us. Later that night, I stood in the bathroom, staring at my own reflection. I barely recognized the man looking back. My face was tired, my eyes hollow. I whispered to myself, "She doesn't love you the way she used to. She loves someone else." Saying it out loud made it real. The breaking point came the next weekend. Emily told me she was running errands. I waited 10 minutes, then followed her again. My heart pounded, but I already knew where she was going. Sure enough, her car turned onto Daniel's street. This time, I didn't park down the block. I pulled up right in front of his house and sat there, staring at the two of them laughing in the doorway. Emily froze when she saw me. Her smile disappeared. Daniel stepped back, unsure of what to do. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was louder than any scream. I didn't shout. I didn't demand. I just looked at her and said, "I know." Her face crumbled. Tears filled her eyes, but I couldn't tell if they were for me or for the life she'd been living in secret. I turned, walked back to my car, and drove away. The house in the rearview mirror grew smaller until it vanished, but the pain stayed with me. That night, I packed a bag. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stay. The man I had been, the trusting husband, the hopeful partner, was gone. In his place stood someone who had seen the truth, faced it, and chosen to move on.